I worked as a night security guard at an old warehouse on the edge of the city. The building had been abandoned for years before a logistics company bought it. My job was simple: sit in a small security room, watch the CCTV monitors, and do patrols every 2 hours. Nothing ever happened. Until my third week. At exactly 2:17 a.m., one of the cameras flickered. Camera 6, the storage corridor. I leaned closer to the screen. The corridor was long, narrow, and filled with stacked crates. No windows. No movement. Then I saw myself. Not a reflection. Not a delay. I was sitting in the security chair on the monitor, staring straight at the camera. My heart stopped. I looked down at my own hands, and they were shaking. I looked back at the screen. The version of me on camera 6 slowly smiled. I jumped up so hard my chair hit the wall. Camera 6 went back to normal. I checked the timestamp. Live feed. No delay. I ran a full patrol after that, flashlight shaking in my hand. The corridor was empty. No mirrors. No reflective surfaces. At 2:17 a.m. every night after that, camera 6 would flicker. Sometimes I'd see nothing. Sometimes I'd see myself standing closer to the camera than before. On my final night, the screen showed the corridor empty. Then a message appeared on the monitor. "Why did you leave me here?" I quit the next morning. The company later told me camera 6 had been broken for years. Story 2. The hospital floor that wasn't there. Maria worked night shifts as a cleaner in a private hospital. Her job was to clean closed wards, empty rooms, silent hallways, dim emergency lights. She liked it. No patients. No doctors. Just quiet. One night, while pushing her cleaning cart, she noticed something strange. The elevator stopped at floor 13. There was no floor 13. The hospital officially skipped it. The doors opened anyway. The hallway lights were on but flickering. The walls were older than the rest of the hospital, yellowed, cracked. She stepped out. The air was cold. Too cold. At the end of the hallway, she saw hospital beds lined up. Every bed had a patient. All of them were standing beside their beds, not moving, not breathing. All of them turned their heads toward her at the same time. The elevator doors slammed shut behind her. She screamed and ran. The hallway lights went out. She felt hands grab her uniform. When the doors finally opened again, Maria collapsed inside the elevator, alone. Security footage later showed something terrifying. The elevator never stopped at floor 13. The doors never opened. Maria had been standing inside the elevator the entire time, screaming at nothing. I was a night shift cashier at a highway truck stop. Around 3:40 a.m. the phone rang. I answered. All I heard was breathing, heavy, slow, wet. I asked who it was. A man whispered my name. I had never told anyone my name. Then he said, "I'm standing behind you." I turned around. The store was empty. When I looked back at the phone, the line was dead. The phone rang again immediately. This time the voice said, "You shouldn't turn around." The security camera footage later showed something worse. At 3:40 a.m. someone was standing behind me. The camera glitched every time it tried to focus on him. Story 4 intro continues in part 2, the last shift. Jacob worked nights at a call center that handled emergency overflow calls. One rule was never broken. If a call comes in with no caller ID at 4 a.m., do not answer it. No one ever explained why. On Jacob's first week at exactly 4 a.m., the phone rang. No caller ID. His supervisor wasn't there. The phone kept ringing and ringing. Jacob picked it up, and someone on the other end said, "Finally, you can hear us now." Jacob froze with the phone pressed to his ear. The voice on the other end wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It sounded calm, almost relieved. "Finally, you can hear us now." Jacob swallowed hard. "Who is this?" he asked. There was a pause. Then the voice said, "You work nights now." "That's why." Jacob glanced around the call center. Rows of empty cubicles. Computer screens glowing softly. The air conditioning humming like breathing. "Sir, this line is for emergencies," Jacob said, trying to sound professional. "If you need help," the voice interrupted him. "We don't need help anymore." The call disconnected. Jacob stared at the phone. His hands were shaking. At 4:05 a.m., his supervisor, Linda, walked in with coffee. "You look pale," she said. Jacob told her everything. Her face changed immediately. "You answered it?" she asked quietly. Jacob nodded. Linda didn't shout. She didn't get angry. She simply sat down. "That rule wasn't a joke," she said. "That phone line doesn't belong to us." Jacob laughed nervously. "What does that even mean?" Linda leaned closer. "Every call center that runs night shifts has it," she said. "A line that connects to somewhere else." Jacob felt a chill crawl up his spine. Before he could ask more, the lights flickered. The phone rang again. No caller ID. Linda stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "Don't," she whispered. "Whatever you do, don't answer it again." The phone stopped ringing on its own. At 5 a.m., Linda left early. Jacob was alone. At 5:17 a.m., his computer screen turned black. Then words appeared, typed slowly. Jacob pulled the power cable. Every screen in the room turned on at once. All of them showed the same thing. A live camera feed of Jacob, sitting at his desk. From behind. Jacob didn't turn around. At 6 a.m., his shift ended. Jacob never returned. The company later said his employee file never existed. Story 5. The Night Janitor and the Whistling. Tom was a night janitor at a high school. He worked alone, cleaning hallways, classrooms, and locker rooms after midnight. The building was old, built in the 1950s. Every night at around 1:30 a.m. he heard whistling. Soft, slow. At first he thought it was the air vents, but the tune changed every night. It followed him. When he cleaned the cafeteria, the whistling came from the stage. When he cleaned the gym, it echoed from the lockers. One night, Tom decided to follow it. The sound led him to the boys' locker room. The lights were off. The whistling stopped. Then he heard footsteps, bare feet slapping wet tiles. Tom turned on his flashlight. The lockers at the far end were open. Inside one of them was a man. Too tall, too thin. His neck bent at an unnatural angle. He was smiling. The man whistled one last note, then slammed the locker shut from the inside. Tom ran. The next morning, police searched the locker room. They found nothing, except one locker, rusted shut from the inside. School records later revealed a janitor had died locked inside a locker in 1962. Cause of death, suffocation. Story 6. The Night Bus That Never Stopped. Ella worked as a night bus driver. Her route ended at Terminal C, the last stop before the highway. One rule was clear: never stop after Terminal C. One night at 2:48 a.m., a man rang the stop bell. The bus was already past Terminal C. Ella checked the mirror. The man wore an old coat and hat. His face was pale. "There are no stops left," Ella said. The man smiled. "I know," he replied. "This is where I died." The bus lights flickered. Every passenger disappeared. The road outside vanished into darkness. Ella slammed the brakes. The bus stopped. When morning came, the bus was found parked at Terminal C. Ella was inside, alive, but she never spoke again. Story 7, intro, continues in Part 3. The 3:33 a.m. office rule. In an office building downtown, night workers followed one strict rule. At 3:33 a.m., if someone knocks on the office door and do not answer, everyone followed it, except the new intern. At 3:33 a.m. the knocking started, and the voice outside sounded exactly like him. The knocking was gentle, 3 slow taps. The new intern, Ryan, looked up from his desk. "Is someone there?" he asked. No answer. Only knocking again. The security guard across the room froze. His face went pale. "Don't," he whispered. "Do not respond." Ryan laughed nervously. "It's probably cleaning staff." The knocking came again. This time a voice spoke. "Ryan, open the door." Ryan's blood turned cold. It was his voice. Same tone, same accent, same hesitation. The guard stood up. "Sit down," he ordered, "now." The voice outside continued. "You forgot your phone, Ryan." Ryan checked his pocket. Empty. The knocking grew louder. "Please," the voice said. "I'm scared." The office lights flickered. At 3:34 a.m. the knocking stopped. Silence. Ryan sat shaking until morning. When the day shift arrived, security reviewed the footage. At 3:33 a.m. something had stood outside the door. The camera could not focus on its face, but the reflection in the glass showed 2 Ryans. Ryan never worked nights again. Story 8. The Night Shift Nurse in Room 404. Lena was a night shift nurse in a long-term care facility. There was no room 404. Everyone knew that. The numbering skipped it. But every night at 4:04 a.m., the call light for room 404 turned on. Lena ignored it. So did everyone else. Until one night, the call light wouldn't stop blinking. Against her better judgment, Lena followed the hallway past room 403. Where room 404 should have been, there was a door. Old wooden peeling paint. The door creaked open on its own. Inside was a hospital room. Outdated equipment. Rusted IV stands. A patient lay on the bed. His eyes were open. He whispered, "They forgot me." Lena backed away. The door slammed shut. The call light stopped. Facility records later showed a patient died during renovations, sealed behind a temporary wall. Room number 404. Mark worked night dispatch for a rural police department. At 2:11 a.m. a call came in. No signal ID. The voice said, "There's been an accident." Mark asked for location. Static. Then coordinates appeared on his screen. They matched his own station. Before he could respond, the radio crackled again. "Too late," the voice said. Security footage later showed Mark alone in the station, except for a shadow standing behind him. The shadow never appeared on camera again. Mark quit the next day. Story 10. The motel wake-up call. Sarah worked the night desk at a roadside motel. At 3:09 a.m., room 12 requested a wake-up call for 3:30. At 3:25, Sarah checked the system. Room 12 was vacant. No guest, no booking. At 3:30, the phone rang. "Room 12, Sarah answered. A voice whispered, "You remembered." Security logs later showed no call was placed. Room 12 had burned down years earlier. With guests inside. Story 11. Intro continues in part 4. The night shift train. Ethan worked alone as a night signal operator for a freight train line. Every night at 1:11 a.m. a train passed that was not on the schedule. No engine number. No driver ID. One night the train stopped, and someone stepped off the tracks and waved at him. Ethan had worked as a night signal operator for 6 years. He knew every train, every schedule, every sound the tracks made. That's how he knew something was wrong. At 1:11 a.m. the signal panel lit up. A train was approaching from the east. There was no listing for it. No engine number. No cargo ID. No driver information. Just a blinking green line moving steadily closer. Ethan picked up the radio. "Eastbound freight, identify yourself." Only static answered. The train slowed. Metal screamed against metal as it came to a complete stop directly in front of the control booth. That had never happened before. The headlights flickered, then turned off. Something moved between the cars. Footsteps. Slow, heavy. A man stepped into view. He wore an old railway uniform, the kind not used for decades. His face was pale, his eyes sunken like he hadn't slept in years. He looked straight at Ethan and smiled. Then he raised his hand and waved. Ethan felt his throat close. The radio crackled to life. "Ethan," a voice said. His name. "You're late tonight." Ethan dropped the radio. The man stepped closer to the booth. "Don't you recognize us?" the man asked. "You've been stopping us every night." Ethan shook his head violently. "I don't stop trains," he whispered. The man's smile faded. "Yes," he said softly. "You do." The signal panel behind Ethan flickered. Every train that had ever crashed on that line appeared on the screen. Dates, times, fatalities, all marked as cleared by operator. Ethan's ID number was next to everyone. The man knocked on the glass. Once. Twice. Then the train began to move again. At 1:12 a.m. it vanished from the system. Ethan was found in the booth at sunrise. Alive, but unable to remember his own name. Caleb worked nights at a city morgue. His job was simple. Log bodies, clean trays, and make sure nothing went wrong. One rule was written in bold letters on the wall. If a body sits up, do not approach it. At 2:44 a.m., tray 7 creaked. Caleb froze. Slowly, a body sat upright. Its eyes opened. It looked directly at him. Caleb remembered the rule. He stayed still. The body smiled, then whispered, "Good, you remember?" It lay back down. At 3:00 a.m., tray 7 was empty. Records showed the body had been cremated 2 days earlier. Story 13. The night shift security badge. Nina worked night security at a corporate office. Everyone had a badge. At 2:22 a.m., the scanner beeped. "Access granted." No one was there. Then it beeped again. "Access granted." Footsteps echoed down the hallway. The cameras showed nothing, but the badge log showed repeated entries. Same badge number, belonging to an employee who died 5 years ago. At 2:30 a.m., Nina felt breathing behind her ear. She never worked nights again. Story 14. The call from the elevator. Aiden worked night maintenance in a high-rise building. At 3:03 a.m., the emergency phone in elevator B rang. He answered. A woman whispered, "It's stuck." Aiden checked the system. Elevator B was parked. Empty. The woman continued. "It's getting crowded." Screaming filled the line. The call disconnected. The next day, building records revealed elevator B had fallen in 1998, with passengers inside. Story 15. Intro continues in Part 5. The Night Shift CCTV Room. Omar worked alone in a CCTV control room. At 1 a.m., one monitor turned on by itself. It showed the control room. From above, Omar looked up. The camera angle didn't exist, and someone was standing behind him, watching. Omar had worked in security for years, but nothing prepared him for what happened on the night shift in that CCTV control room. At 1 a.m., one monitor flickered to life. It wasn't showing a hallway, a door, or the parking lot. It showed the CCTV room itself. Omar froze. The angle was impossible. The camera feed was coming from above, a point that didn't exist. Then he noticed the figure. A man, tall, pale, dressed in a dark uniform. He was standing right behind Omar. Omar spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. The monitor showed him spinning. And then, the figure moved closer. The man raised a hand. Omar's heart pounded. He wanted to run. He wanted to scream. Then the figure spoke. "You see me now. Soon you'll join us." The lights flickered, the monitors went black, and the CCTV system rebooted. When the day shift arrived, Omar was gone. Security logs showed the CCTV room was never entered by anyone during the night. Story 16. The Night Shift ATM. Clara worked as a bank night auditor. Her job was simple. Check the ATMs, verify cash deposits, and ensure the building was secure. At 2:02 a.m., one ATM began flashing. Clara walked over. The screen read, "I'm here." Her heart skipped. No customer was in the bank. The machine printed a receipt. It read, "Look behind you." Clara slowly turned. Nothing. The ATM began printing again. Security footage later showed her walking toward the machine. But the footage also revealed something else. A figure walking behind her. It had no face. No one was ever captured on camera leaving the building. Clara quit that night. Story 17. The Night Shift Gas Station. Ryan worked alone at a 24-hour gas station. Around 3:47 a.m., a man entered wearing a mask. He didn't speak. He handed Ryan a note. It read, "You won't last the night." Ryan laughed nervously, thinking it was a prank. The man left. Minutes later, the security cameras went down. Ryan felt something brush past him. The air turned cold. He looked up. The masked man was standing inside the store, only he hadn't entered. Ryan ran. The next morning, cameras were restored. No one had entered. No one had left. But the note remained. Story 18. Intro continues in Part 6. The Night Shift Lab. Dr. Lisa worked nights in a research lab. One rule was strict. Never enter the storage freezer after midnight. One night she heard footsteps, cold breath on her neck, and a whisper. "We've been waiting." Dr. Lisa's lab was state-of-the-art, cold, sterile, and silent after midnight. Her co-workers always joked that working the night shift was easy. Less stress, no interruptions. That was before she heard the whispers. At 12:47 a.m., she was in the freezer storage checking samples. The fluorescent lights flickered. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned. No one was there. A low whisper floated past her ear. "We've been waiting." Her hand shook. She grabbed the flashlight, sweeping the room. The freezer doors at the far end slowly creaked open on their own. Inside was darkness, but it wasn't empty. Something moved. Something with no face. It rose slowly, tall and unnatural. It extended a hand toward her. Dr. Lisa ran. Her lab access swipe wouldn't work. The temperature dropped. Her breath formed clouds in the air. She heard hundreds of whispers now surrounding her from every corner. "Join us, join us." Panicking, she finally kicked open an emergency exit. Outside, the night was quiet, normal still. But when she returned to work the next day, all evidence of the freezer and its contents were gone. No doors, no samples, nothing. Her co-workers pretended nothing had happened. Dr. Lisa never worked nights again. Story 19, the night shift parking garage. Jake worked security at a multi-story parking garage. Every night at 2:22 a.m., a car would pull up to the elevator bay. No lights, no license plate. The car was empty. Jake would approach, only for it to vanish as soon as he reached the car. One night he followed the sound of tires on the ramp. He arrived at the spot. No car, but a puddle of water formed on the concrete. It was warm. Jake heard whispering coming from the ramp above. Slow, rhythmic, footsteps that weren't his. The security cameras later showed a shadow descending the ramp. A shadow that walked without legs touching the ground. Jake quit that night. Monica worked in the hospital laundry room during the night shift. At 3:03 a.m., she noticed the industrial dryer spinning on its own. Clothes tumbled inside, but the doors were locked. The machine stopped. Then a voice whispered from inside. "I never leave." Monica opened the door. No one was inside. The clothes lay flat. But when she looked closer, she realized each shirt had a small handprint in blood. Security cameras were mysteriously disabled for 3 hours that night. Monica quit. Story 21. Intro continues in part 7. The night shift office cleaner. Ethan, an office cleaner, worked nights in a downtown high-rise. His favorite part of the job was the quiet, until he noticed something strange. At 4:44 a.m., all the lights in the building blinked once. A voice echoed through the empty halls. "You shouldn't be here." Ethan tried to leave. The elevator buttons were unresponsive, and the voice got closer.